Hello, my name is Ian Green. I'm the Executive Chef at the Highland Imperial Hotel. Today we're going to show you how to make a spinach and watercress velouté with wild mushrooms and a poached egg. So to start off with the soup, we have got some veg stock, one medium to large size potato, onion, washed spinach, washed watercress, and we're going to retain a little bit of watercress just for a bit of garnish. So if you keep that to one side before you cook it, we'll just put that on the soup at the end, and then we've got some double cream. So first of all, we can take the onion. Because this is quite a quick soup and we don't want it to go brown or discolour too quickly, we want to cook the soup quite quickly. So everything we're going to cook today, all the ingredients that go into it are going to be relatively small. That way they'll cook quicker and we're not going to boil the vegetables, lose the colour and lose the flavour. So, onion, I'm going to slice it down towards the root. Get a nice sized dice. Do that side as well. And then I'm going to cut in a couple of incisions again towards the root, not right to the end, or the onion will fall apart. Simply slice down, and that's going to give you a nicely chopped small dice of an onion. Because you're not cutting right towards the root, eventually these incisions will run out. Just cut along a couple of times, going around the root, you don't want that part, and just slice it down again. Again, a couple along, and in from the sides up to the root, and then we'll get rid of the root. The next stage, we're going to sweat these onions down in a pan, medium heat pan, until they start to soften and go opaque. We don't want them coloured, caramelised, you just want to keep them white, but they need to be nice and soft. When that heats up, we're going to drop the oil, drop the onions in. Remember not to get that too hot initially, otherwise they'll just fry as soon as they hit the pan. With the potato, we're going to peel this, and again we want a nice small sized dice. Any potato will do, it doesn't have to be red or white potato or Maris Piper. Anything of a good size will do. And again, if you take a small incision off the side, turn it onto a flat surface, your potato won't move while you're trying to chop it. It gives you a stable platform to work from. And then we're going about a centimetre thickness. And then they'll be ready to dice down in a minute. I'm just going to drop the onions into the oil and get them sweating off. So, again, we're not looking to fry these, just a nice soften. Try not to add too much oil in the pan because that's only going to go into your soup. You can always add, but you can't take away, so once it's in there it's going to be difficult to get out. So on a gentle heat like this, just keep softening the onions. Until they're nice and soft. They're opaque, but they're not coloured. Again, we're not looking for any caramelisation to the onions. So potatoes, we've cut again into about a centimetre thickness. Just going to cut along, same kind of technique as the onion. Obviously you can go towards the end, there's no root to worry about. And then down again into about centimetre size. So you have dices of potato around that kind of size. Too small, it will just turn into mush too quickly. Too big, it will take too long to cook. And you'll end up boiling the goodness out. So you don't want to be looking to have them too thick. Okay, I'm going to check the onions. We're now going to take this over and we're going to add that to the onions. Okay, so the onions have now softened. They're soft to the touch. This is the stage you need to be careful you don't colour it too much. Then what we're going to do is add the potatoes. And stir that in. This is the thickening agent for your sauce, for your soup, sorry. So, add those. Okay, so next we're going to add the watercress. At this stage, because it's been washed, just rip it in half, that'll help it cook a little bit. Add half the spinach. The other half we're going to add when we blend the soup, and that'll add a bright green colour to it. And then we're going to add about 3/4 of the stock. Don't add it all at once because you can add more again later if you need to. If you add it all at the beginning, you're going to have to probably just drain it off anyway. So this stock will enable you to cook this down. If you feel like you need to add more, you can add more. But again, as I keep saying, you can always add, but you can't take away. So give that a nice stir in. And add a touch more of the stock. And then we're going to leave that and bring that to the boil. Okay, so while the soup has come to the boil, you turn it down to a simmer. We can quickly prepare the mushrooms. So you can get these in most good supermarkets nowadays in a mixed tray. You can get them in a veg box, farmer's market, wherever you're able to get fruit and veg from. Here we've got a couple of oyster mushrooms, some chestnut mushrooms. If you can't get hold of these, button mushrooms is fine. You can leave them out if you don't want them. Anything like wild mushrooms, don't leave them soaking in water. Just kind of get a brush them quickly. If you do need to give them a quick wash, straight in, straight out, and just try and flick the dirt off. Again, these will act like a sponge, so if you leave them soaking in water, they'll just suck up all the water and they'll be terrible when you go to cook them. And what we're going to do is we're going to saute these in a pan, and again we can saute these before the soup is ready and just keep them warm or re-warm them afterwards. So while the soup's on the simmer, we're going to take these over . Simple bit. Add some oil. Again, don't add too much. Mushrooms are like sponges, they will just soak up all that oil and it'll end up tasting like that. Quick stir of the soup, just keep it moving. Just check on those potatoes. Again, once they start to soften on the potatoes, then that's going to be it. We don't want to be cooking it for any much longer than that. Good test with mushrooms is always drop one in first. If it doesn't sizzle, take it out. Just wait for it to get a little bit hotter. Okay, so again we're going to try a mushroom. There we go, starting to go. So we'll drop the rest of them in. Just look for a nice golden brown colour on these. Always season your mushrooms at the end of cooking as well, never before. If you add them at the beginning, it will start to take the moisture out of the mushrooms. If you season them up at the end, you'll retain more flavour inside. That's it, so looking for a nice golden brown colour on these. Remember, these will be sitting inside the soup when we go to serve the dish, so they will continue to keep cooking. So just be careful not to overcook them. Okay, now we've got a nice golden brown colour on those. We're going to add a couple of knobs of butter. And let those melt, start to foam. This is unsalted butter, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt to it now. And just a touch of pepper. Be careful how much pepper you add in this dish, because we've got watercress, it's naturally peppery anyway. You don't want to overdo it. Once they're softened, we're just going to take those out of the pan and keep to one side. The soup now, just check the potatoes, they're nearly there, and then they'll be good just to blend. 2 more minutes and then that'll be good to go. Again, we don't want to boil this too fast to make it go brown. We just need the potatoes cooked until they're soft, and then that's it. Okay, next for the poached eggs, what we're going to do is we're going to bring a deep pan of water to the boil. Some people drop eggs into a teacup with some vinegar. That also works. You can add the vinegar to the water. That also works. The key thing is to make sure your pan is deep enough and make sure it's not boiling too quickly. So we're going to add a little bit of salt to the water. And a good tablespoon of vinegar. Be careful not to add too much, because the egg will take on the flavour. We're going to turn this down to just short of a rolling boil. So you can see the bubbles starting to come up. And then with a spoon, very carefully, very gently, start to stir the water in one direction to kind of create a whirlpool effect. As it starts to slow, drop your egg. And just gently make sure the egg white is all encompassing close to the egg yolk. You can add your other one once the first egg is finished kind of spinning past, otherwise they will stick to each other and cook. Now, only from the very top of the water, don't put your spoon all the way in, otherwise you're going to end up catching the egg. Just gently keep stirring the pan until you see the egg has started to form. The yolk should go to the bottom and the white should start to form up or around it, and that's it. We're going to leave that for a couple of minutes until they're cooked. So the water has now stopped swirling, the eggs have formed. Just a gentle touch. You can see that's a soft poached egg. If you don't like a soft egg, cook it for a touch longer. But that's a good egg. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that one out with a slotted spoon. And same for the next one. Onto a tray. And if being careful where the egg yolk is, if you want a perfectly rounded finish, turn the spoon so the inside is facing the yolk, and you can just gently take any excess things away, and it just makes it a little bit neater. You can do that with a pair of scissors as well, so you've got a perfectly round egg. Okay, just checking again now. Yeah, the potato's soft, the soup is cooked. We're going to take that off the heat and take it over to the blender. Okay, at this stage, what I'd always do with these types of soup is I pass the liquid off carefully through a sieve or a chinois, whatever you've got at home. Because again, the same rule applies, is you can always add the liquid back in, but you can't take it away. If you start to blend this and there's too much liquid, there's not much you can be able to do. You're going to have a very watery soup. So, liquid out. Into the blender. I'm going to add some of the stock back in to help that blend, maybe about half. Remember, we're going to add more spinach to it again later. I'm going to put this on. Quite a high speed to make sure it's very smooth. Once you've done the first blend, you end up with a fairly thick soup consistency. Now the spinach will still have some water to it as well. Again, this is now going to be totally dependent on how thin or thick you like your soup. But we're going to add the remaining spinach in. Add a touch more stock, just to help blend that in. At this stage we're only going to add some cooking salt, or the sea salt flakes. Again, because watercress is naturally peppery, don't want to be adding more until we've tried it. So give that another blend. About 30 seconds, and there we've gone from an off green, like a khaki green, to more of a bright green because the colours come out of the spinach. And we'll test that now for seasoning. And a touch more salt, and just a tiny splash more stock. So again, I've got a good 100-150 mils left here from the initial stock. Again, totally depending on how thick you like your soup. I'll blend this again. And there we have them. Nice blended soup. At this stage, to be a little bit more decadent, you can add a splash of double cream or a couple of knobs of butter to make it a bit smooth and velvety, but I think that's probably enough in what you've got. Next we're going to plate up. Okay, to serve the soup, I'm going to pour it into a bowl, just short of the top. I'm going to add some of the mushrooms into the middle, and then the poached egg, just by flipping it over, gives you a more smooth rounded look on the top. And then some of the watercress you saved from earlier, you can just place on the top and serve. That's your spinach and watercress velouté with wild mushrooms and a poached egg.